We are live. Good morning, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're joining from. We got Kevin, myself coming in. Kevin's on the road today. As you can see, he's in his fancy uniform. But we're going to talk to you folks about goals today. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. I'm actually on my way to serve citizens of Georgia, looking for a missing individual.
Oh, okay. I'm sure if you were in Colorado, you would be working on the fire recovery. Have you heard about that?
No, I have not. Y'all got fires going on?
Well, there was like a city fire that destroyed I don't know, 900 homes or something like that in Boulder, right outside of Denver here. Pretty crazy.
That
But all right, so
sounds
let's jump into it. Oh, just turning it down. But yeah, talking about goals. I think it's a good time. New Year's resolutions are happening or not happening. Depends on if people are still doing it. Do you feel like people are doing as many New Year's resolutions as they have in the past, or people are kind of doing less of it? In your opinion?
just a second. Trying to improve audio. Are you hearing me better?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, that should make it better. Maybe a little less background noise. Repeat your question, please.
Yeah, just do you think there is, just in your opinion, do you think there is more New Year's resolutions happening or less?
I was trying to think based on some of the feedback I've gotten that maybe people are doing a little less, or at least traditional approach. Some people approach New Year's resolutions and try to do so in a thought out fashion rather than just a list of, well, I'm going to be the greatest in 2022 and I'm going to make all the money in 20, that kind of thing. Maybe a little more thoughtful in their approach. But my sense is that might not have as many people this year as before, but I haven't asked that question. It's a good one.
I just personal opinion is I've been noticing that people are not doing as many of them. But just let's give some shout outs. We got Sharon, Rick, Aaron, uh, Dr. Ashish, we got Wendy and Shauna. Welcome to the show, everybody. But we're talking about, setting goal, in general. And before we get into like any sort of process, I just want to talk about what is successful about goal setting and maybe what is not, more importantly, what is not successful. In your opinion, Kevin, what do you think are some of the issues that are happening with goals right now? Like that, oh, Kevin disappeared. Um, but I'll start with talking about some of the issues that basically happen with goals and see what you folks think about it. But one of the biggest things that I think with goals today is there's goals have kind of become like dreams. People are like, well, here's a goal that I want to achieve and this is something that I want to do, and I come back and I ask, what is the plan behind it, right? And I forget what the saying, how the saying goes, but if there is not a plan behind a goal, it's just a dream. And people are like, okay, this is what I'm going to go accomplish. And there's a book, I think it was called From Good to Great, that came out with a concept called BHAG, Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And I like the concept. And really what it boils down to is the statement that shoot for the moon. If you miss, you land among the stars. I don't know if has anybody ever heard that statement before. I'm not sure if you have or not. And what happens is basically I've seen people underperform consistently, but because the goal is so high that the performance overall is still pretty good. But psychologically, what I've noticed is it destroys people's ability to constantly hit the mark. And I think that that's not the right thing to do. And that's just my personal opinion. If you folks disagree, I'd love to hear in the comments if what you think around the concept of setting a goal so high that even if you miss, you still have a great, great performance, great outcome. So personally, like I said, I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's better to go the other way around, is set goals kind of small in the beginning, right? If you haven't really set goals in a long time and this is something that's new to you, set goals that are a little bit shorter and can you guys hear? Okay, I'm just seeing audio is good here. Okay, I'm just checking. Um, Thank you, Sharon. But anyway, so or maybe Rick, I don't know who's saying that you can hear us, but if one of you can hear us, the rest of you should be able to hear us. But basically, is setting goals so small and building a winning momentum. This is something that I'm going to challenge all of you to do as you're setting out these resolutions and doing these kind of things. Build a good positive association with what you're doing. When I'm coming back to that comment, if you set your sights, goals for the moon, if you miss, you land them on the stars. The problem with that is you start to create an association of failure with what task you're doing because you're not hitting the mark. You're not feeling like you're accomplishing something all the time. Even though the outcome is overall good, you're still not going to have positive association with that, activity, whatever it is that you're doing. So if it's a health goal, if it's a work goal, if it's a life goal, it doesn't matter. You are less likely to do that. So we have Aaron saying here, progressive goals are great and celebrate the milestones. Yes, that's really what it's all about, is being able to celebrate those little accomplishments that you have and being able to move forward and then build on them. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit about how to set goals in a way that builds progression. And there's basically 6 steps that we utilize here at Perspective Force that Kevin and I talk about. And it starts with or actually there's like 3 different types of goals, right? There's really big ones, which are going to be your infinity goals and passion goals, which I'll explain in a second. And then we have more kind of middle of the road goals, which are more outcome based goals. And these are goals that are based on something happening and being able to measure it. And then it also depending on other factors. And then there is behavior based goals, which are basically just actions and choices. So when you're starting your goals, let me just give a couple shout outs here. We have Gabe. Good morning, Gabe. Archie. Good morning, Archie. But yeah, so starting out, I want you guys to focus on behavior goals because if you haven't been hitting goals for a long time, what do most people do? People set the SMART principle, right? Specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and timely. And that is great. I love the SMART principle. But sometimes what we go is let's use New Year's resolution as like weight loss. I think that's a very common one that we see. And people go, I want to lose, 20 pounds. Great. That's awesome. It's a really good goal. Your health will be better. Things will work out better. But have you lost weight recently? Have you done the actions consistently that would lead to that? If the answer is no, we need to start working on behaviors first. So we have to sit down and think about what kind of behaviors can I do that will lead to weight loss that are not necessarily an outcome. Something that is going to be like, exercise. Exercise is a behavior. Weight loss is an outcome. So what I'm saying is you could eat right, you could exercise, but you may not end up losing weight because you're overly stressed. Um, you're basically, your stress hormones are keeping up and belly fat's not going to come off your body. And I'm just using it as an example because losing weight depends on your physiology being good. Think about if you're in a constant, you're so busy you can't really eat well and things like that because your job is just asking too much, right? There's so many things that go into losing weight. But if I said wake up every morning and for 10 minutes, just 10 minutes a day, do some form of movement, whether it be, exercise, maybe it be yoga, maybe it's even something for your health that's like more breath work and things like that. And that was your very first goal. So that would be a behavior based goal that I would want you guys to set for the first, 7 days per se. And you say, okay, I'm going to do that for 7 days. You may even say 5 out of 7 days. Maybe you say 3 out of 7 days. But the point is, at the end of that 7 days, you chose something so small that you can't make an excuse for yourself. You can't give yourself a reason, a way out of it. Let's see what we got here. That is me right now. Stress has been holding me back. Yep, and I think that's Sharon. Yes, thanks, Sharon. And that's the case for many people. So that's realistic. And instead, what can you do that stress will not impede your ability to achieve? And that's a choice, right? So you start with these 3 out of 7, 5 out of 7, whatever. Some of you may say 7 out of 7. I don't care, whatever it is. But the point is, don't miss the mark. And then from there, you start building up on something bigger, a bigger behavior goal. So it takes somewhere between, good morning, Christine. If anybody's joining and wondering why I'm on Kevin's channel alone, Kevin was here. He's trying to reconnect, but I think he's having connection issues. I keep seeing him popping in and out with connection issues. But anyway, so then you select a little bit longer behavior goal, something that is between 21 and 28 days. And that's why the reason it's not specific is it depends on what study you look at. There's some studies that say you need 21 repetitions in order to set a habit. Some say you need 28 repetitions to set a habit. And that's what it is. Yep, Rick, exactly. Develop good habits. Absolutely. That is what we're after. Let's see. We got Eunice. Good morning, Eunice. Goal setting is a powerful process for thinking about your ideal future and for motivating yourself to turn your vision into this future of the future into reality. The process of setting goals helps you choose where you want to go in life. Absolutely. And we're talking about some really, really big ones. Stress can affect, let's see here, another comment. Stress can affect most of our day-to-day goals, also our health. 100%. Yes, spot on. So the point is, once again, we're coming back to now, it's still a longer behavior goal, something that we can set a habit with. Now I'm consistently waking up in the morning and I'm doing that 10 minutes of exercise for 30 days now, whatever it may be. Now it's a habit. What it ends up being, I don't know, I forget what the book is, but it's called the Keystone Habit. And it's basically, holds everything else down. When you've gotten used to getting up and doing it in just 10 minutes, you're going to feel like you're making positive progress towards your health. We could be 10 minutes of journaling. It could be 10 minutes of book writing. It can be 10 minutes of so many different things. It's not just health. It applies to many different things. And then all of a sudden, after 30 days, you feel accomplished. You feel good. You have positive association with what it is that you do. And then you are ready to go for more. And from there, you start to set a goal that is a smaller goal, but an outcome-based goal. So remember, we said maybe we wanted to lose 20 pounds. We're not going to say 20 pounds right from the get-go. We may say, I want to lose 2 pounds this week, right? And that's actually a pretty big goal, like maybe realistically 1 pound. And say, okay, I want to do now based on the behaviors that I've set for 30 days. Now I actually want to start to measure and see what is going on. I'm doing all the right stuff. And now I want to see if I can actually create the right outcome. And then you measure that. And if the outcome happened, great, celebrate, move on to the next outcome. But if it didn't, start to assess what in my environment, even though I'm making the right choices, is impeding my ability to make progress. And once again, whether it be your health, whether it be your work, whether it be your life, the same kind of thing applies. And then from there, you move into larger outcome goals, right? Now you may be going, you say, okay, I want to be able to lose the full 20 pounds. And once you've created a bunch of smaller outcomes, you can shoot for that. And then these are very logical. These are just really behavior-based goals, outcome-based goals, but there's really no emotion connected to it. And I don't advise always moving that way. So now we need the fifth goal, which is a passion goal. Good morning, Zaid. It's good to see you again. Kevin, somewhere on the road, is trying to log on, but he's having a connection issue. So you guys just get me for now talking. But I just want to make sure that I at least cover this and help folks out, share what we're talking about. So then from there, you're moving into your passion goal. Passion goal is something that is connected to something beyond this, just yourself, right? It may be connected to your purpose in life, to your vision. It may be connected to your family, and staying with this kind of weight loss concept, because I think, like I said, New Year's is a big thing, big focus around there. Maybe your passion goal is something like, say you are a young grandparent and you want to be able to play catch with your grandkids or whatever it may be, right? When they start to get older. Well, that's something that you want to remind yourself that if you're, not in a good state of health, if you're not moving well, if you're carrying a lot of weight, you may not be able to do that. Your health may not last long enough. So then you're reminding yourself that I am got some delay. Just showed me you're online. Sorry, it's might be a LinkedIn issue because I think everything on our end is good from network standpoint. But anyway, so now I'm thinking about that when I'm starting with my behavior goals. I'm thinking about I'm doing this 10 minutes, 5 minutes of exercise in the morning because I want to play catch with my grandkids when they get older, right? Maybe it's a trip to the beach and you want to wear, your bathing suit and feel comfortable and not uncomfortable at the beach. And maybe that's what's kind of creating that desire to do that. Maybe that's what your passion is. Maybe it's climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or Everest or something crazy like that and accomplishing like a bucket list item. But the point is, we're connecting these small behavior goals into small outcome goals, into bigger outcome goals that ultimately connect into this big passion goal. And that's what we want to do. That's what keeps us going. But there is still a problem. There's one thing missing. And if you folks have seen, I think Simon Sinek is the one that wrote it, but he's wrote a book recently called The Infinite Game. And he talks about kind of these infinite goals. And that's the sixth step, is being able to go for as something that's continuous. And the reason for this, I've seen this in the health and fitness industry so many times, especially with weight loss. Imagine the person says, I want to lose, 100 pounds. The thing that it takes you to lose the first 90 is much easier than what it takes to lose the last 10. It's just way harder to get down to that last little bit. The work required is significantly higher. So when you have a finite goal, whether it be health, whether it be work, when you start getting to the end, your motivation starts to goes down, because in the beginning, we're super motivated. We're excited to accomplish that goal. Small actions create big movement. While on the other side, when we start to get towards the end, much bigger actions are required even to create smaller movement. So what happens is people usually stop right before they get to the end, because I've talked about this in the show a few times before. Our brain, it basically uses dopamine for motivation. It's a neurotransmitter that kind of helps us to get motivated. But what it does is that dopamine spikes before the activity. It goes up, the body goes, okay, now I'm motivated to go do that activity. How it does so is it goes, what you're asking me to do for work, what is the reward that I'm going to get? Right. And if that is not going to be a good reward, it's not going to be moving into that. It's going to say, you know what? That reward is not worth it. I'd rather get on my social media in the morning and get a few likes from LinkedIn or whatever. That'll make me feel better than doing the exercise, because I just don't feel like the reward is worth it. So what we need to do that to battle that is create infinite goals, something that is based on I put in the work and I'm able to see the result. And that's usually things that are quite different from, what we usually set with outcomes. With weight loss, we get to that certain point and we're done. But if I said, I want to be as healthy as I can be for my age group, right? And for me, I'll tell you what I do with that. It's my blood work. So I take a look and I do an annual blood panel that has a bunch of things, way more than the doctor's usually willing to give me. I'm standing there, the doctor with a list, and I'm going, okay, this is the panel that I want. This is the panel that I want. Then I argue with them for like 15 minutes of why I need to have that panel. But ultimately, they give me the panel and I take a look at everything and I see, okay, based on optimal parameters for my age group, not good enough medical norms, but optimal parameters for my age group, where am I at? And my goal is to always stay in the top 10%. So if I see something has gotten off, I keep putting the work, I keep adjusting, and I keep improving it. So the point is I can constantly do the work and get a little bit better, right? I see my blood sugar went up a little bit, my insulin went up a little bit. Okay, I need to increase fiber in my diet. I need to cut back on my sugars and things like that. Maybe I see my cholesterol is high, right? Maybe I need to drop a little bit of pounds in order to get my cholesterol down, triglycerides, hormones. I'm a big fan of, measuring my hormones and seeing where we're at. Oh, testosterone is creeping down. My estrogen is creeping up. Okay, I need to increase cruciferous vegetables. I need to go lift heavier weights. But the point is there's lots of different actions I can put into it. And then I put in the work. If I had a bad test, I'll retest 3 months later, right? So usually beginning of January, I'll have this annual test done. If I'm scoring great, everything's fine. I just keep trucking along. But if I score poorly, then I put in the action. But the point is it's infinite. It does not stop. So, and I can always measure against my age group, because I don't measure against myself 20 years ago when I was 15, 18 years old, whatever it may be. I measure it against myself currently in my age group. So that's kind of how it flows. And in general, let's see here. Side edge approach, easy to do and easy not to do. What do you mean, Aaron? You're gonna have to explain. But yeah, so once again, that's the 6-step process. And you want to typically reverse engineer it, but some of you may not be able to do that yet. And the reason for that is, how can you create an infinity goal if it's an area you've never done? Say somebody's just starting out exercising for the first time, and they don't know a whole lot about exercise. They don't know a whole lot about their capability. Maybe don't set that infinity goal. Maybe go through a few behavior and short-term and long-term outcome goals before you get to a passion goal, and then see how that passion can turn into an infinity goal. but that's really what you're looking for. And there's some other general parameters that, I tell people to focus on. And we talked about this on the show many times before. And it's approach versus avoid goals. We want to go for approach goals, meaning that we're going towards something versus away from something. So if I want to change something, I'm not going to say I'm going to avoid a negative, or I'm going to avoid pain. I'm going to seek pleasure. And I'm going to change to positive instead. So basically what we're looking at is, as an example, instead of me saying I'm going to stop eating sugar, right? I've talked to you guys many times on the show before. If I say that to myself, guess what I want? I want sugar. I want what I'm telling myself not to have. It's just how our psychology works. But if I know that I need to decrease my sugar cravings and my sugar intake, I know that I need to increase my protein and my fiber. If I eat more meats, more plant-based proteins, whatever it is that you're after, then and also more fiber, my blood sugar will be better regulated. So less spikes, less drops will create less cravings, and naturally I'm going to have less sugar instead of telling myself not to have sugar. So in general, those goals, those types of goals are much better for you. Let's see here, Aaron. Thanks for answering. So the Slight Edge is a book written by Jeff Olson, just in alignment with what you said. Your behavior is easy to do and easy not to do. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Let's see, another comment here. I love this theory from Simon Sinek about finite and infinite goals. It opened my mind to a different understanding of work, goals, and vision. He gave the example of Apple versus Microsoft. Not familiar with the example because I've only skimmed the book. We've used this infinite approach in fitness for a long time. Anybody that's been in a behavior usually understands that like clients drop off when they get close to their goals. And we want to keep them moving forward as coaches and keep progressing. And really, the problem with finite goals too is you don't know your capability, right? You don't know what you can do. So somebody usually sets a much smaller goal than they're capable of, and they don't really, do their body or their self full justice, whether it be health or not. So that's the theory, guys. That's the principle behind it. Chase the positive, don't avoid the negative, and that's kind of the focus. I don't know if Kevin says he's not going to be able to join, but I just wanted to at least cover this today and give you guys some high level overview of these things. It's kind of tough talking to myself. I don't know how Kevin does this for an hour. Like he just sits there and does his wisdom seeker lives on Monday by himself. I'm like, I need him. I can't talk for that long. But yeah, so check out the book. Simon Sinek, and he's a great researcher, became a great author and a great leader in the space. Kevin looks like he's watching. Say hello all. Hey Kev. But so yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in right now. But let's just break down and workshop one goal as an example, so we see how that works. So say we use my goal of health, right? My goal of constantly having great blood work, right, and within top 10% of my age group. And thanks, Aaron. And what happens then is basically I'm going to reverse engineer that back. Imagine this is January. I did my, he said, I love all the positive support, folks. I appreciate it. Yeah, he wanted a vacation. So it's, imagine I did my blood work in January, which I actually just did. And it came back and say my cortisol, which is a stress hormone, is up because I've had a crazy year last year. So what am I going to do? I'm going to reverse engineer that back. What is that tied into my passion goal? My passion goal is always to be helping people avoid stress, not avoid stress, but really work through stress. That's like my biggest passion in life. As you can see, I talk about stress all the time. And what am I, if I'm not taking care of myself, if my body's not in its best state, how can I help you all to be at your best state? I just can't. So I have to remind myself. So now I'm going to go backwards even further and say, all right, well, if that's my passion goal, my chemistry is off, my blood work is off. Now let's look at some big things. So I know my sleep hasn't been as consistent as it should be. So maybe my 30-day outcome goal later, I'm just reverse engineering it now, would be to sleep for a whole month, 7 to 8 hours, a night. Okay, great. That's actually sleep that long, right? I'm not saying be in bed, sleep that long. Then coming back further, I'm going to choose a short-term outcome goal and say, 5 out of 7 nights, I'm going to sleep that long. Once again, this is still down the road. In order for me to get to that point, now I need a short or long-term behavior goal. So really my first 30 days is going to be spent on an evening routine, executing an evening routine. but that's going to start with just a week. So for the first week, I may start my evening routine, which I'm going to hold for the next 30 days, is I'm going to go to bed at the same time. I'm going to wake up at the same time. So it's as simple as, okay, 10 p.m., go to bed, 6 a.m., wake up as consistently as it can be. And that becomes my keystone habit, right? That becomes the thing that holds everything together. So until I get my blood work improved, at the bare minimum, that's what I'm going to hold myself to. Guess what? It's going to make some sacrifices. I'm going to have to make sacrifices in order to make that happen. But when things become tough, I have to come back to my passion and say, if I am giving up on myself, if I'm saying, giving excuses for this goal right now, what I'm doing is I'm causing harm indirectly to all those people I'm trying to impact down the road, and all those people that I'm trying to bring my passion to. And for you, it may not be that. For you, maybe climbing Mount Everest, and that's what you want to do eventually. But if your health is not good, how are you going to be able to do that? And if you're not sleeping well, how are you going to be able to do that? Whatever it may be, right? So now for those first 7 days, I did that 5 out of 7 days, even giving myself some wiggle room in the beginning. And then from there, now I'm going into my long term, and I'm going that for 30 out of 30. But now what you're going to notice is usually I add things in. I add stuff in that say, not just go to bed and wake up at the same time. I start building an evening routine around that behavior. So things like 2 hours before bed, I start to shut off all bright lights, really eliminating the white light in the room. I start to reduce technology an hour and try to shut off technology an hour before going to bed, right? I make sure that I don't eat late into the night. And then basically there's a bunch of different things that I can do that'll aid me in going to sleep. Maybe take some melatonin, maybe take some stress lowering supplements, maybe do some yoga breathing. I mean, there's just so many different things that you can do. But the point is, at the bare minimum, I will always go to bed and wake up at the same time and hold myself to that. There's some discipline that's required with that. So that's kind of what we're going for. And then from there, once I get out of that 30 days, now hopefully my passion goals are on track and everything's on track, and my infinity goal of constantly my blood work is finally going to be improved. So 10%, yeah, Kev. I mean, that's what it is. I could have said execute my perfect nighttime routine for that long and try to make that be a behavior, right? Too tough to start there, and it's improbable that it's always going to happen. But if I say I can go to bed and wake up at the same time, and there's maybe other ones that you say, maybe it's something different, right? But at a bare minimum, I will always do that. So then when I look in the first, week, in the first month, I feel good about what I've done, because no matter what, I'm progressing. And remember, as long as you're staying consistent, you're way better off than these kind of sprints and short bursts of intensity to try to achieve things and go as fast as you can. So let me look at some comments here. I appreciate all the positive support. People telling you you're here in spirit, Kev. Of course you are. Fiverr. Let's see. I keep my sleep hours the same too. Helps me balance my mental health. Yeah, 100%. And folks, this is one of the biggest issues with our sleep is we're waking up and going to bed at different times. And our body can't set that circadian rhythm that is consistent, can't control our melatonin and cortisol that allows us to sleep well. So that's goal setting. I really wanted to at least hit a half an hour today of myself talking. And Kev, don't worry about it, man. I know you have issues, so no big deal at all. But if you folks have any, need any help with this, if you need just a general idea, reach out to me and Kev. We can walk you through it. But what we always recommend, especially at this time of the day, go take the assessment that we have on our website, perspectiveforce.com, and see what your issues are, right? See where stress is the worst. And then from there, you can start to reverse engineer it back into what simple things you can do to start to correct that. So that's all I got for you folks today. I thank you all so much for joining. Looks like our crowd has always been good. Like we're getting 15 people at a time now. It's pretty cool. And then just remind your friends, bring your friends here. I'd love to see this audience grow, because this is all about human SOS. It's something that we sometimes forget to talk about. But Kevin and I see that there is an issue in the world. We see that stress has become so unsustainable. The way that we live and the way that it shows up is just really unsustainable for us long term. And we understand that the planet needs to be taken care of. We're all for sustainability within the planet and green living and all that kind of stuff. But we also want to take a look at human sustainability, how do we get people to thrive better? How do we get people to survive, not just survive, but live in this world and as Kevin likes to say, feel the world of abundance and feel positive and feel good all the time. Because if we continue down this path as a society, it's a very not a good ending for us all. So we created Human SOS as a form to slowly start a movement. We've done 91 episodes and we're going to keep going. And it's all of you that keep us fed, fed with energy, fed with excitement to keep showing up, to keep talking about this. And that's what I always ask. Just invite people, share the show, share, follow Human SOS, hashtag Human SOS. If you haven't, share the hashtag. And let's remind people just to live in a more sustainable way. Let's not run on fumes. Let's get back to being our powerful human beings that we're destined to be. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye, everybody.